All right, this is a special edition of the Section YY podcast, Negative Niece, joined by Harb and special guest. You probably can't see him if you're watching the video, but you'll be able to hear him if you're listening to the audio version. Tennessee baseball super fan Thomas Raines has joined us as we talk about, celebrate, and remember the national championship that the Tennessee baseball team won this past weekend in Omaha, Nebraska. Great place, wonderful place. But I remember when Gavin and I cranked this podcast up back in 2020, and there's been some lean times in here doing this show. Been a lot of winning lately. You know, we won some SEC titles in baseball and basketball, and football went to the Orange Bowl and won. But look back on 2020, how bad it was, and but there's been more winning than losing here lately. But it all came to fruition, all came together last Monday night in Omaha, Nebraska, Charles Schwab Field, beautiful Charles Schwab Field there in Omaha. Tennessee wins its first ever baseball national title. I'm going to start with superfan Harbin, if you don't mind. I'm going to start with superfan Thomas Raines. I don't know anybody. I saw Patrick, a friend of the show, Patrick Keck. I don't know if he tweeted it. I don't know where he posted it. This last week's been a blur. But he tweeted, I don't know anybody that deserves this more than Lee and Thomas Raines. I mean, you guys have had season tickets forever to Tennessee baseball. You all don't, I mean, you might miss a game here or there, but rarely do you miss a game. But like, what was it like being back here in Knoxville as the Vols wrapped it up last Monday?
It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears just finally coming through to get that one big win that no sports team in Tennessee has gotten in 25 years, really. Been close a
Well,
handful of
the
times.
Lady Vols did. Don't
Well,
forget the ladies.
we talking about track or are we talking about
Women's basketball.
when was this? Because the
Oh
last one
08. They
they
won in
announced
'07 and
track.
'08.
Well, see, I thought they announced track was the last time that any sport won like a national championship, but I don't even remember.
I don't remember that. But you're right. Sorry, go ahead.
You're fine. No, it was. I wish I was there, but I got to enjoy it from my house. Had to keep quiet because the kids were asleep, but
I don't know how
it
you
was
did
fun.
it.
I was a little bit louder than I'd expected, but it was
Yeah,
fun.
I was thinking about you when I was out there. Tried to get a little souvenir for some of the soldiers that couldn't make it. But I ran out of money, so I didn't get everybody something, but it was an expensive trip, but it was well worth it. I got some confetti. It's in the other room, tucked away safely. Picked up a couple pieces of confetti there from the stadium, so that was cool. But Harbin, what do you think? Where were you at when the final strike was thrown, and what was the reaction?
So I was supposed to work that night. And that just wasn't happening, to be 100% honest with you. So the girl that worked during the day, she was gracious enough to switch with me. So as soon as I got off, I hit 11E and I rolled straight down to Knoxville. And I watched it at Schultzbrow Brewing Company. Which this is wild. The original plan, the group of people that I went with, we were going to watch it at Yeehaw. And the game started at 7. And they rolled up at 10 after 5. And the place was already at capacity.
Jeez.
So,
God.
I mean, they let them in, but there was just absolutely nowhere to get. So we rolled over to Schultzbrow. Place was absolutely packed as well. Place was rocking.
Oh no.
Sorry.
Okay, there we go. We got Thomas on video now. Sorry, Harbin, continue.
Hey, T Rains. Uh, so it was a great time. Schultzborough actually set off fireworks on their own when the final strike hit. That was
Wow.
that was a nice little surprise, nice little touch. And also about 5 minutes later, they just started chucking cigars off of the stage there, probably like 5 or 6 boxes. And the funniest part to me was when cigar smoke went in there, it just did not smell like cigars.
What did it smell like?
A little bit of the urban essence.
Oh,
Speaking, I believe is the PG way of putting it.
okay. Okay.
I love that. Didn't partake, but I love that for those that did. Celebrate in your own way.
Hey, you do you.
Yeah, I mean, it was just absolutely phenomenal. Knoxville finally got a legit thing to celebrate. I mean, we've had glimpses and we've had great moments, but at the end of the night, we were number one, and it was just incredible to be a part of. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. It it was something else being there. Like we were way up in the third level, which wasn't very high. I shouldn't say way up, but we were in section 322 of the stadium and a couple old we had actually had the whole row to ourselves the entire night because I think a lot of people had to leave because it was Monday to go home. And tickets were going fair. Like, from what I heard, we were in a place bar out in right field before the game called Blatts, and there was some Tennessee fan said he bought tickets in the outfield for like $30, which on Saturday night they were going for like 400. So it was like a huge difference, and it wasn't sold out. There was a bunch of empty seats, but we had the whole row to ourselves. And about midway through the game, these two older guys, Texas A&M fans, came and sat next to us, and they were nice. Like we were talking about the game and stuff. But the last two innings, me and my uncle and those two guys, we didn't speak to each other. Like there was no words exchanged. This was all business, and I was looking at my phone off and on between innings, and I finally got to a point going into the seventh. I think I texted some of you all maybe and said, I'm going radio silent. No more texts, no more tweets, Instagrams, truths, nothing. We're not doing anything else. I'm just going silent. And I never looked at my phone again until the end of the game. And I finally after we won, we walked down and I had 102 text messages. I wish I would have taken a screenshot of my phone. It was crazy. 102. And I'm sure I missed something that was going on in those text messages. But if I didn't respond to anybody that night, it was poor service, and I had 102 missed text messages. So, and if anybody knows me, I don't like that number next to the text message box on my phone. I hate that when there's a number there. Like it drives me crazy. But it was wild. It was wild seeing Tennessee win a national title. I didn't get to go to Tempe in '98 to see the football team win. So to be there, my uncle didn't get to go to that either. So to be there in Charles Schwab Field, it was incredible. And Harbin, I will say after the game, the chocolate milks flowed like wine.
I gotta say, Schultzborough was serving up some incredible homemade chocolate milk as well. Um, and friend of the show, Jake Mine, and I actually had a couple more chocolate milks at Clancy's afterward.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, just kept the party going. So
Part of me, I mean, I know I was there, but part of me wishes I was kind of here to see the reaction. But I was seeing reaction on social media when we finally got back to the house we were staying at later that night, or well, late that next morning. And I saw your pictures, and Thomas and me and Patrick were texting, and that was just awesome. I still can't believe it. Unbelievable.
we're here.
We're here.
We're
I'm
here.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So, um, did you have any doubts going into that second game? I mean, I was sitting there. I told my uncle in game 2 on Sunday, which was a scorching hot afternoon in Omaha, by the way. I think it was going into the 6th inning. It wasn't the 7th. I was like, if we don't get something going here, we're in deep trouble because we would get the leadoff runner on and not do anything. But Dylan Dreiling, I don't know that we win this thing without that guy. I mean, he just clutch hit after clutch hit after clutch hit, not just in the championship series, but the whole tournament. To be honest, what do you think about Dreiling, Thomas?
I think he earned himself quite a bit of money next couple weeks. Being a draft eligible sophomore, wish he could come back, but he's not coming back.
You know, I kind of thought that he might come back, but after that World Series, there's no way he can come back.
No, he was
no
he was the clear-cut favorite for player of the MOP, as they call it nowadays. I don't know why they're not valuable anymore, but I guess they don't want to be considered
have they gone woke?
money like a slave or something. They got to be most outstanding. They can't be valuable. Can't have a value attached to name.
I've never thought of it that way, but that might be right.
But he definitely earned it. I don't know how they were talking. If it wasn't Dreiling, it could have been Lampkin for A&M. Like, he played 2 games against Florida. I mean, maybe if he beat us on Monday, but I still don't see a pitcher being most valuable player unless they win every game. But
no, I didn't. I thought it was between Dreiling and I kind of wanted to give it to Stark a little bit because he had that big hit, but he was just kind of out there.
You can't give it to Stark when you go 0 for 16 and you have a home run. That's all you got.
No, but it was either going to be Stark or Burke to me. I don't know who else it would have been, or not Stark. I'm sorry, Dreiling and Burke. I don't know who else it could have been or more.
The only other player you could put in there is, what's his name?
You got to consider
Curly.
Hunter
Inslee or Curly.
No, yeah, I'm thinking Sechrist because he's 2-0. And I need to say this. I need to apologize in person to Xander Sechrist because me and a good buddy Richard, Richard Nathan, said at the beginning of the season that if we're having Xander Sechrist as our Sunday starter all season, we're going to be in some trouble. And the last month of the season, he was probably our best pitcher over Drew Beam, AJ Causey. He 5-6 innings of maybe 1 or 2 runs a game, and half of those weren't earned because of errors. He won that. He won the semifinals in the SEC tournament. He won the clincher in the super regional, clincher in the regional technically, clincher in the College World Series, and the game that get us to the finals of the College World Series.
Yeah,
that's all in a month, 2 months.
I mean, he was as clutch as it came. Him and Dreiling were as clutch as it got.
Hey, the American Idols, Xander Sechrist.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you could also say him and Kirby Cannell were our 2 most important pitchers on the whole staff down the stretch because Kirby pitched in every game in the College World Series. He pitched in all 9 games.
Really, I didn't realize that. Yeah, he did. Didn't he?
They said it on the broadcast. He pitched in every game. Now he maybe only pitched to 1 batter in a couple, but he came out and pitched in every game. Now the format allows that until you get to the finals because there's a day of rest or more between each game, and but still you got to be ready to go.
Especially if you win, it does allow it for sure.
Yeah,
and that's why that Harb and I talked. That Florida State game was so critical. If they lose that game, I don't think they get to the finals. There's no way.
Yeah, I was going through my mind that night as we were losing, and I'm like, we don't have the pitching to come out of the loser bracket because you're going to have Dylan Loy be a starter or somebody like that start a game and just hope for the best. And hope he has another game like he did against LSU in the championship. But
yeah, this team didn't have a Camden Sewell type that could come out of the bullpen and throw 4 or 5 innings.
Not with any experience, no.
No. So that's why winning that first game is so critical for any team. I mean, not just us, but I mean,
even the game we cheated to win somehow.
too bad.
How did we cheat? We didn't tell them to make us call it a ball.
Too bad. Hey, it is nice for once. It is nice for once that we caught a break. I mean, how many of those calls over the years in all sports have gone against us?
Every one of them.
Every call. So it was. I don't care. I don't feel sorry for Florida State. I really don't. It sucks for him. I've been in their shoes. It sucks, but
he still had to get 3 more hits after that. I mean, Burks caught it, but he still had to get a hit. I mean, he could have struck out the next pitch.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 2-strike count. So
you make a better pitch, not one right over the middle. He doesn't hit it up. He didn't get the hit, but
I saw Vanderbilt was in their fields. They had to show that video that was on. I didn't know this was on Van Pelt. I watched the game actually last night. I hadn't been able to sit down all week and just like watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it, and then it goes to Van Pelt after the game, which I'm disappointed with ESPN. Where did y'all watch the trophy presentation? Was it on ESPN Plus?
They had it on SEC now, some, but ESPN Plus I think is where it's at. And I didn't know, they didn't even announce it was on ESPN Plus. Or if they did, I didn't pay attention.
I don't remember. They just went to Van Pelt. I was like, well, where's the trophy presentation?
I watched like an hour and a half of SEC Now on repeat that night while I was sitting downstairs trying to wrap my head around a national title that I still haven't really sunk in yet, I don't think.
Right after the dog pile, they had a little thing in the bottom corner. It said,
whatever. Yeah, I thought they probably would. I think I was upstairs when we won it, and then came downstairs after, and I just didn't have it.
I don't understand that. If they wouldn't do that for football, they wouldn't do that for the basketball title game.
Yeah, they talked about 10 minutes about the baseball game, and then went immediately to the NHL because that game 7 ended right after, a little bit before the College World Series ended. So they talked about the NHL Game 7.
It just shows you, and that was part of the problem too. Stanley Cup Finals Game 7 was on, but it just shows you that while college baseball has grown immensely over the past few years in popularity, especially in this part of the country, but a lot of the nation is tuning into it. But it's still not. I don't want to call it a fringe sport, but it still kind of is in that area where I'm assuming a lot of the nation could care less at that point, between Tennessee and A&M, probably places have got SEC fatigue, but there's probably baseball fans out there watching it. But I mean, they wouldn't do that if Alabama and LSU were playing for the national title in football. They wouldn't bounce away after 5 or 10 minutes, and they would go back to the field. They'd have a crew there. They'd be talking about it at nausea. They'd do the top 25 for next year. I mean, there was nothing like that unless you were on SEC Network, I guess. But
college football is probably the only sport that's going to trump a major league sport in a championship if they were on the same day. So, I mean, you kind of had the NHL not gone to Game 7, there might have been more coverage of it, but
true.
It still was probably the trophy presentation was always going to go to ESPN Plus because they got to do Sports Center after.
So,
Harbin, have you bought any gear yet? Have you spent any money yet?
Yeah. Which for me, I may go broke with all this championship gear I bought. It's really tough.
Yeah.
A whole lot of winning. I'm not used to, obviously last time we spoke, the Celtics won their first title in 16 years. Bought 3 pieces for that. Actually got one of them in the mail today. And the night of Tennessee winning, I went ahead and bought a good amount. We'll call it that. Still haven't received it yet. Hopefully it comes in tomorrow. But yeah, I've got some gear coming in for the boys.
Thomas, how much have you spent? Have you broke yourself yet?
Well, This is the NIL National Championship
Oh, nice.
all signature. I got that. I have a shirt that's that Nike with the logo. I bought a baseball, a koozie. I spent $15 on reprint of the new Sentinel with old Tony on the front, and I'm gonna get framed. So we got.
Nice.
I'll probably spend $100. I bought the wife a shirt.
How much? I bought this outside. Me and my uncle bought this outside the stadium.
You spent way too much money on that shirt.
How much do you think it is? How
you
much
said
do you think?
50.
Yeah, I did.
That's.
I didn't even ask. We walked in. I was like,
well, I would have bought it. I would have bought it too.
I said, I looked at my uncle. I was like, we gotta find a T-shirt. I gotta find a T-shirt. I have to have a T-shirt from the site.
Yeah.
And we walked in this tent somewhere out in right field. I don't know where it was. And I said, I need a championship shirt. What do you got? And she said, we've got these right here. And I said, give me an XL. And then my uncle said, give me whatever size he got. Just gave her my credit card. She gives me the ticket back and it's $50. I was like, I just paid $50 for a cotton T-shirt. But whatever. I did get these decals. I've already put this one on my truck.
Yeah, that's the decal I got. I have one. It's in, I don't know. I'm gonna put it on a Yeti, I guess, or something. And
I bought like 5 of them.
I don't know if I want to, where I want to put them all.
Then I got this one. This was pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw that one. I didn't get that.
That was a good one. That's going on the cooler. Probably.
I may have to replace the Vols decal in the back of my truck.
I think you should, even though that is a good decal.
I have 2 of those. I have another one of that exact decal, but
we got my Mimi in Louisiana. She watched every game and she wanted a shirt, so I got her one at Alumni Hall Friday, like the one at the on-field, like they were on the field after the game, the white one.
Yeah.
But I haven't bought anything else for myself besides this. But I can't go back. I went into Alumni Hall Friday at lunch there on Paper Mill. It like gave me an anxiety attack. There were so many people in there. I couldn't look at anything. I couldn't move. Every time I turned around, there was somebody like in my face.
We went on Thursday at lunch, and it was the same thing. But they would put out a shirt, and then like we went on Saturday, yesterday, and they had a row of shirts I was going to get. Didn't have extra large. I go pay for this shirt. Go back and there's a new like that whole rack has been refilled and there's all sizes. And I'm like, well, I would have gotten that shirt. So
the guy at the register told me, he said, I don't know why everybody's in here right now. He said, we're going to restock all this stuff. I said, well
they
this
want
is
it now.
how it is. Just won the title. We want it right now. And it's how I was when the Cubs won the World Series. I probably spent $200 the next day on stuff. Of course, with Biden-inflation, all that's gone up now. So, whatever I bought back then doesn't equal what I can buy now. But yeah, Harbin, you're definitely gonna go broke with the Celtics and the Vols winning titles within a week of each other.
Yeah, but football season's approaching, so we're gonna be back to earth. I'm not talking about the Vols, I'm talking about the Cowboys.
Oh, well, I heard they're already eliminated from the playoffs.
No, we'll make the play. We'll go 12-5, potentially win the division, and we'll lose our first playoff game to a team that we shouldn't. It's just what we did.
Harbin,
but I know that now, so
at least you know now. Harbin, we're just oozing with winning. In the words of Chad Grubb, we are just oozing with winning right now.
Hey, winners win.
Winners win. Pars win.
Pars do win.
Pars win. Hey, by the way,
listen, in the 8th and 9th inning, a whole lot of pars.
Yes.
Even a bogey or 2.
Yeah, we had a bogey in there. I think we had a couple bogeys.
Hey, I gotta say,
double bogeys.
My boy Balkan. We got to talk about that.
And then laughing. So I didn't know that till the next day. I had no idea that he was laughing about it.
Of course, laughing.
So
when he did it, you could hear him. You could hear the mic catch him. He turns and he goes, "Shit."
Yeah.
He didn't know. He said he mouthed. I didn't know he went to second.
Yeah, which is, I get why they let him go to second because of defensive positioning, but
run don't matter.
That run, I mean, they got to communicate that with him. I'm sure no one told him in the midst of everything with 2 outs, but yeah, that was awesome. Well, it's awesome now. I wasn't very happy at the time. You know, he turned around. I was like, what is he doing? Like, what is he doing? But he shook it off. That run did not. The only way that run mattered is if they drove him in and the batter got in scoring position or he hit a home run. And, you know, there was a couple, it looked like grandparents and they had their grandkids with them, Tennessee fans right behind us. And the kid was all, he probably, 10, 12 years old. And one of the kids was all upset and squealing and going on after that. They let that fifth run in. And I turned around, I was like, look, that doesn't matter. This guy batting is the only thing that matters right now. All we got to do is get him out, whether it's a ground ball, a fly ball, a strikeout. Just don't let him on. Just get him out right here. And that was right after the wild pitch. And they did. I turned around and I said, see, I told you. That's all you got to do.
Pitches in the last 2 innings.
And they had none the whole World Series until then.
They don't have that many. Very, very rarely do they have any. But Loy couldn't. The moment was a little bit too big for Loy. He did good on Saturday, keeping it where it was, or Friday, because he pitched. Was he pitched Friday?
Friday.
Came in Friday, pitched well, but it was a little bit too big for him on Sunday or Monday.
And he'll be fine. He just that's a big stage for a freshman.
In my opinion, play of the game now that we won by 1 run was Inslee's miraculous slide on 1 hamstring. Because obviously when you're up 2, 3, 4 runs, you're trying to get as many insurance runs as possible. And obviously Monday night was a perfect case of that. When he was going in, everybody in East Tennessee thought he was out by a mile. And he made a little.
I thought he was out by a mile in Charles Schwab Field.
Well, yeah.
He was out by a mile without the slide.
Yeah, but he makes that miraculous slide, and then after the game, which maybe is exaggerating, maybe is not. I don't care. It makes for a better story. But he essentially played on like 1 1/4 hamstrings, which with some of the plays that he made in the field is even better. Dog status, legend status. Yeah, and it was probably the most important play of the game.
So that when Tears hit that ball from where we were sitting, section 322, row A, seat 7 and 8, never forget that. It sounded like a shotgun went off when he hit that ball. And about halfway in the air, I think I turned to my uncle and said, bomb. And then it hit the fence. I was like, how did that ball not get out? But not remembering that the wind was blowing in from right to left that night pretty hard. Chris Burke said during the broadcast, or KP, Kyle Peterson said, there's not much wind, but what wind there is coming in from right to left. It was a little bit more than just a little bit of wind. That wind was blowing all day hard on Monday. And it was 112 degrees, by the way, heat index in Omaha all day Monday.
Did that wind die down for Dryling's home run? Because Dryling's ball was up in the wind. So how did Dryling's ball that was hit with less power off the bat?
I just think it had a lot of backspin on it. It had to. I don't know how. When he hit it, you can see Laviolette kind of floating out there, and I'm like, well, that's a can of corn. And he just keeps floating back. I didn't know how it went out.
That was Sorrell. And had it been Laviolette, that ball might have been brought back. Because Laviolette, I think, makes that catch because he's 6'6". Sorrell's not that tall. Now, he made a good effort, but
not good enough.
But I did see this is just a conspiracy kind of there. Somebody tweeted Tears home run or hit Tears double, and you can't really tell, but it looked like it hit off the fence above the
yellow line.
Above the yellow line, but nobody even tried to review it. And I think part of it is everybody was surprised Inslee was safe at home, and they didn't even think to review it. But because the way it bounced off, if it hits the fence, like if it hits the wall, the padded wall, it doesn't bounce that hard off, I don't think. But there's not a clear view on that video that I saw, and I tried to rewatch it, and I couldn't tell.
You can't, even live and on replays, you can't tell at all. I saw that, but I don't know how they would even do that.
Inslee himself said he started when in the post game, he's like, I thought it was gone, so I didn't take off as hard as I should.
Well, you think like he's at least going to be standing on second. when that ball hits the wall. I mean, that's what they teach you.
Yeah.
When a ball's hit like that, at least go stand on second because you can get back in plenty of time. But
Well, there's 2 outs. It didn't matter at that point.
oh, it was 2 outs. Well, never mind. Yeah,
And
he
you're
should have
running,
taken.
but he thought it was a home run, so he wasn't booking it to try to score from first.
Yeah, when that throw got to the, I don't
Oh,
know if it's second baseman or shortstop there on the relay, and he was just rounding third. I was like, oh God, he's toast, and he was. But
the throw took him a little bit too far
mhm.
away from the plate, and Inslee was able to Euro step
Yeah.
inside him.
Did you see the video of him walking into Lindsey Nelson on Tuesday after they got back? He was like limping pretty badly.
He's hurt. I wonder if he goes pro because he's only a redshirt junior. He's got a year left, and he doesn't. I don't know that he grades out well enough to be a higher draft pick, and because the draft is not as many rounds anymore, he could be back next year, which would be great because we don't have anybody in the outfield coming back that's played.
No, that'll be interesting to see. I mean, we'll get to that here in a second, but I don't know. I don't see him going pro or leaving after this year. You never know, but I mean, you at least got him and Curly back in the field, but I don't know. Let's take a break. We're going to take a break. We've been starting to do this. We're going to take a pee break, Harbin, and refresh ourselves. When we come back, we'll talk about the future of Tennessee baseball, maybe do haters and losers if there are any. And then we'll wrap this national championship edition of the Section YY8 podcast up. So hang tight. We'll be back in 5 seconds. All right. So Tennessee won the national title. We know that now. That's a fact. That's a given. Thomas, what do you think? I know they'll be at a football game, probably, right? They'll you remember the basketball.
They'll announce them in halftime or a timeout or something. Yeah.
Remember a couple years ago in the basketball team when we were playing Kentucky and they brought them out with the SEC championship trophy right out in front of the Wildcats. God, I loved it. That was the infamous game in Skybox East 522. It was where Can You Imagine was born, and Can You Imagine being and living in Kentucky was born, and there was almost a fight in the box that night. So it got a little heated up there. But
I remember that. I remember you talking about that story.
Not one of my finer moments, but it is what it is. As my microphone has come unplugged. See if that's better. So Thomas, you went to the parade. How was that? Did you go to the parade or just the celebration?
We just did the Market Square celebration. It was very hot, very crowded. I heard from one of the baseball ushers that he only knew of. I heard there was more, but 4 people had to be taken off by ambulance. Mm-hmm. 2 more were treated, but were able to leave on their own. I heard the number was 11. It was very hot, but for me, it was worth it. Tiffany didn't enjoy it too well. She got a migraine and had to go sit in that one of the stores in Market Square in the dressing room with the lights off for like 20 minutes to
oh gosh
kind of get better. But I thought it was fun, but it was just real hot.
God, it was that Saturday. I'll tell you what, all 3 games in Omaha were hot because I wore my orange jersey Saturday night, and as soon as we stepped out of the car, I could not stop sweating all day, all night long. I mean, it was just pouring sweat. And then and the chocolate milks didn't help. And Saturday I wore a dry fit polo and my bucket hat to keep my head and ears from burning. And it was so hot. It was 98, 99 degrees, something like that. And then Monday was just, it was unbelievable how hot it was. We got there at, I don't know, like 2:30, 3 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game because we wanted to go over to Rocco's and get a Jell-O shot. And we got a Jell-O shot. I got one for you, Harbin. I got one for T-Money. I think we ended up getting about 10. So we donated to the cause for everybody that couldn't be there. But it was so miserably hot. They said the heat index was 112 degrees and the wind was blowing. So it was just blowing hot air everywhere. And then you would go in one of these places and there were so many people inside of them and it wasn't any better inside. I mean, it was a little bit better, but not much. So it just became at the point like it is what it is. It's not going to cool off any. So it got a little bit better at game time, but it was still like I don't think I stopped sweating all night. And even after the game, we were running around like crazy people trying to get down to the field. And shout out, saw Sweat Bee, ran into him a couple times. Couldn't get in touch with him after the game. He kept saying he said, I'm right above you. And I went up there and he's nowhere to be found. I don't know where he went. But
He
Sweat
apparently
Bee
got a picture with Tony at the hotel and with the trophy after the game.
So I got a good Christian Moore story from somebody that was there. I was talking to on Thursday, and they were staying in the team hotel, somebody associated with the team, and they went down to the lobby the next morning. They'd been out all night, and they said Christian Moore comes walking in the lobby at like 8, 9 o'clock that morning in full uniform. He'd been out all night. They let the team go do whatever they wanted after the game. I saw that Cannell was over at Rocco's with John Fulkerson. And I saw Fulkerson actually on Saturday morning really early when I was in the Asheville airport. He was in the ticket line and I was going through the security check and he gave me the VOL sign that Butch Jones made famous. I gave it back to him, but he was there and actually he wasn't on my flight, but then I saw him in Des Moines, Iowa as we're getting a rental car. So there was a lot of Tennessee and Texas A&M fans had the same idea I did, is to fly into Des Moines, Iowa, and drive to Omaha. But saw Sweatby, saw a former high school teammate of mine, Jacob Pratt. Hopefully he's listening to the show. We won the 2001 region title at Carter, and he was the catcher. And ran into him briefly after the game. Saw Dr. Parker, the dentist, Dr. Parker. He was there. Actually, turns out he was a classmate of my uncle's in dentistry school. I did not know that. Let's see, who else did I see? Jeff Burton, Jared Burton was there. Big Jeff Burton. Fired up.
They took a Sprinter van.
Yes,
There was like 6 or 7 of them piled up in there.
That's the way to do it.
He texted me afterwards and said that they had one more spot, and I was like, "Well, hell, Burton, what's that gonna do?" Thanks a lot.
Well, I was going to try to ride back with Sweatby because I was just going to find like a one-way flight out there, but I ended up finding a pretty reasonable flight to come back, so I just flew back. But I'm pretty sure Sweatby beat me back because my flight, I sat in Des Moines Airport for like almost 5.5, 6 hours. I had lost track. It was awful, but there was severe weather in Chicago where I was flying into. And then all across the Midwest, there were some pretty bad storms. So everything kept getting delayed. And then I missed my connecting flight in Chicago to Asheville. It got pushed back, or I got a new one, and then it got pushed back. And we sat on the runway for nearly 2 hours waiting to take off. So by the time we took off from Chicago, I was already supposed to be on the ground in Asheville and on the way back to Knoxville to Straw Plains. But it was a long day, but I was sitting there in the airport like, what if we'd lost last night? And I had to sit here all day and watch Texas A&M fans walk in front of me, gloating and going on. But instead, I had this on, and they were looking at me. It was nice to have the shoe on the other foot for once.
I got to say something real quick. Earlier when we was talking about doubts of game 2, yeah, I had a million doubts until what was it, the 7th inning, 8th inning, whenever we took away.
Seventh.
Yeah, had a million doubts. But after we hung on, I know it's easy to say now, but I was like, they should not have let that happen because you could tell body language between the coach, some of the players, which if the roles were reversed, probably would have been the same.
Mm-hmm.
But they did not want to have to play Monday. which if you're up 1-0 in a 2 out of 3 series, obviously you don't. But just based off body language, I was like, we are going to win on Monday, 100%. I never even thought about what would happen if we would have lost on Monday, just because I was that confident in it. Like it was
I
kind of
didn't either.
it was like the '04 Red Sox when Kevin Millar, he was like, "Don't let us get one," which obviously I was best 7, not best 3. But same premise though. A&M definitely wanted to get it done Sunday night. They wanted 0 part of Monday. That's just how.
They didn't have enough pitching to get through a 3-game series really against. Yeah, they were. It's surprising that they made it as far as they did with all the injuries they dealt with. So I mean, they did a good job getting. Everybody was talking about Florida coming out of that side of the bracket. Nobody was talking about A&M coming out of that side of the bracket.
I kind of thought it was going to be A&M though. I thought it was going to be whoever got through A&M in Kentucky through that first
I
game.
didn't think. God, if it was Kentucky, I can't stand Kentucky.
Nobody can. What about real quick before we move on to the future of Tennessee baseball? What about Schlossnagle leaving Texas A&M the next day after saying that he left his family and was essentially happy at Texas A&M?
It's like Nick
Wow.
Saban when he was in the Dolphins saying, "I'm not taking the Alabama job for 3 weeks straight," and then he takes the Alabama job. I mean, I can't. I mean, I don't think it was a money-driven thing. I think it was his really good friend is now the AD at Texas, and I don't think they were happy with their coach. I mean, it's kind of crappy how 18 hours after you lose the national championship. I think he goes even if they win the national championship. That's the thing. I don't think it mattered if they won or lost because according to Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball, that deal had been in the works since after the Georgia series in the regular season.
Yeah.
Well, what was he making at A&M? 1.2 a year? Is that what it was? Was that the number?
I don't know numbers.
I think I saw something. I'm 90% sure on this. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I believe he was making 1.2 at A&M, and he's getting 3 a year at Texas. So it's
I
hard.
mean, money helps, but I think it's a brand new AD at A&M, and it's an AD that he's real good friends with at Texas.
So
I mean, he damn near tripled his salary. And before he was at A&M, he was at Rice, and he was like, "I'm not leaving. This is my home." And what did he do? He bolted for A&M directly after he said that. It's a pattern with this guy.
so I read a story. I think it was this morning or yesterday. I can't remember when.
Not
it
Rice.
was.
I'm sorry, TCU.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Where same thing pretty much. I mean, TCU was good with him, but I
He was
read
good with Tony Vitello there because Tony was his recruiting coordinator.
and Elander.
Yeah, Elander was a player. Tony was a recruiting coordinator.
But I read a story where he had a conversation with the new AD there at A&M, or with the AD at A&M. I guess he was new. And the conversation ended with the AD at A&M saying, "Well, if you're not happy here, it'd be all right if you moved on." I was like, I can't believe that an AD would say that if he did say that. That's like shocking to me, unless they just really didn't want him there anymore, which is possible.
I mean,
But
you've heard there's some players, current and former players, I don't really think liked him that much. But
yeah,
you have that come out when a coach leaves in that manner with any school that there's going to be people coming out of the woodwork. But
then
their starting center fielder that they pulled at the end of that, pinch hit for at the end of the game said that he never respected him.
But then former Cub Cy Young Award winner Jake Arrieta posted a long tweet, I think it was this morning, defending Schlossnagle and said that basically people who didn't like him were soft because they couldn't play for him because he was very demanding and tough on the players and whatever. But if you haven't seen it, look it up. And I'm a big Jake Arrieta fan. I don't know enough about the situation to comment one way or another, but I don't really care, to be honest. I thought it was interesting. And you got this two different dynamics here. You got that, and then during the celebration in Knoxville on Tuesday, Tony Vitello basically challenged the fans of all sports at Tennessee. He said, you got to decide, you're either a Vol or you're not. If we're down 7-0 in a football game, or the softball team's struggling, or volleyball or basketball, whatever it is, like, you got to dig in and you got to decide, I'm either a Vol or I'm not. He almost can't leave after saying something like that, but apparently Texas A&M, according to reports, Kendall Rogers put it out there this morning that Texas A&M threw a bunch of money at Tony Vitello, and he told them no. And they also threw some offers at Virginia's coach. I think Florida State's coach came into play at some point. I don't know that he
I
would
don't
ever
think that
leave
was.
Florida
I
State.
don't think he'd ever leave Florida State because he's a former player there.
But it just said something to me about, Vitello just said that 3 days ago, and then here's A&M throwing just wads of cash at him, and he still doesn't leave.
What they end up doing? They end up who'd they end up hiring? I saw they announced
They
somebody.
promoted their hitting coach. The assistant coach was their hitting coach.
See, I thought
Early
that
or
was
Early or
all the reports that I saw, Schlossnagle was taking the whole staff with him to Texas.
I think he took their last name is Kane or something. Followed him, but I don't think everybody else did.
there was 3 of them, I thought, went with him, didn't they?
I have obviously I don't pay attention to it.
But
I would pay more attention had we lost, probably, because I wouldn't have to worry about it. But
the one thing I took exception with that Jake Arrieta tweeted was the premier baseball program in America hired Jim Schlossnagle. I'm sorry. Texas is good, and they used to be really good back in the 80s and 90s, but they are not the premier college baseball program in the country. I don't think Tennessee is at this point, but they're...
If we're looking at the last 5 years, the last 4 years, we are the premier baseball team in the country.
I mean, overall,
with Virginia, because they've made 3 of the last 4 World Series. Now, they haven't had any success, but when you make 3 out of 4 World Series,
I think overall, as a program, it's got to be LSU at this point. But I think Tennessee's top 5 easily now.
Oh yeah.
But you're right. Over the last 4 years, Tennessee is the best college baseball
run
program
that we've had is probably one of the best 4-year runs in college baseball, outside of South Carolina winning back-to-back national championships, Oregon State won back-to-back national championships. But out of those, other 2, I mean, you got to say top 5 programs in the last 4 years in a 4-year span in the history. I mean,
yeah. So, go ahead, Harbin. Do you have something?
No, I was just gonna say, like, if we're talking about current programs, I mean, if you tried to rank the top 10, you'd have to name at least 5 of those being in the SEC, maybe 6. I mean, like, everybody wants to talk about the SEC in football. Baseball, it's 5 times more exaggerated. I mean, how many times throughout the year in the AP Top 25 was 8 of the top 15 SEC teams? Like, that never happens in football.
Me and my uncle
more games, but
me and my uncle were talking when we were out there, like when I was growing up, and then when he was growing up too. It was all Pac-12, and there was in kind of like Midwest. So you had Texas that was always in the mix. You had Florida State was always in the mix. Stanford, Arizona State, USC, Cal State, Fullerton, Pepperdine, Rice. Those programs are gone. They have been replaced by the SEC. I mean, look at who's in the College World Series every year. Tennessee, LSU, South Carolina's been there before. Vanderbilt, Florida's there consistently. And there's other programs on the right. You look in the conference this year, Georgia's back up there to be, which I've never understood why Georgia is not good on a consistent basis with all the baseball that goes on down there in Atlanta and East Lake or East Cobb or whatever it's called. But I don't see that trend ending anytime soon. You're not going to see Cal State. I mean, where's Cal State Fullerton at these days? Do they even make the NCAA tournament anymore?
Well, perfect example. I mean, I'm not giving Florida any credit, or I'm not trying to, but I am kind of. They were bottom of the middle of the pack pretty much all year in the SEC. I don't know if they were ever ranked in the regular season, maybe a little bit. But then once they got out of SEC play, started beating the hell out of people, and they got hot. It's just a gauntlet, and Georgia did the same thing. Georgia started off rocky, ended up playing a lot better down the stretch, and had Player of the Year. It's just a lot of teams that don't really get a ton of credit in the SEC during the regular season because they play the best of the best every single weekend.
It was. I wish I would have taken a picture of it. I wasn't thinking when we were there, but when we went to the old side of Rosenblatt, it's a wiffle ball field now. It's kind of cool how they've done it. It's a wiffle ball field. Home plate is where it was, and then they've got brick like monuments where first base, second base, third base is, and then they've got the foul poles in their exact locations. The zoo bought it across the street, and the foul poles are in the parking lot with the foul line going from home plate all the way to the foul pole. So that was pretty cool. But they had a list of all the teams that won national titles there at Rosenblatt, and USC was on there like 8 times. Like, I don't even see USC talked about anymore in baseball. This is crazy to me. Fresno State was on there, Pepperdine, Rice, Michigan was on there. I mean, that was decades and decades ago. Just crazy. So where do we go from here, Thomas? Tennessee baseball obviously is going to have a lot of holes to fill. Recruiting class is pretty good, number 1 in the nation. So we're going to reload there. But it's going to be a lot of young talent. Like, what does next year look like?
You got to hit the transfer portal. That's hard to get out. I can't get that. That always.
That's what she said.
You got to hit the. I think the reason they had the parade on Tuesday, I heard, was because Tony had recruiting to do on Wednesday. He was going to be out of town recruiting, and one of the downsides of winning the national title was you couldn't recruit the transfer portal like every other team in the country could because you're coaching. You can't have players in town, but I think having that national title behind your name or next to your name gets a lot of players there. You're replacing your entire infield except for Dean Curley. You're replacing probably at least 2/3 of your outfield. You're losing your starting catcher. You're losing two of your best relievers, 2 starters, possibly 3, and AJ Causey if you consider him a starter, plus Stamos. So it could be one of those. The last 3 teams that have won the College World Series, 2 of the last 3 teams didn't even make the tournament the next year. In Ole Miss and Mississippi State, they won it and then didn't even make the tournament the next year. I don't see us not making the tournament, but I think we got to have some players that didn't get any playing time step up, and we may have that talent that we don't know about that redshirted or whatnot, but it's going to be in a rebuilding year.
Well, and this happened a couple years ago when that 22 team, I mean, didn't they have 9 guys drafted? So they had a lot to replace there, and they made the College World Series the next year. But a lot of it, I think you're right, depends on who they can bring in the transfer portal. And obviously the recruiting class is good, and the last few recruiting classes have been good.
And the next year plus the next 2 or 3 are top 5, I think.
And there's been some guys come out and say they're transferring. I can't remember their names, but they didn't really.
One of the biggest ones that I can think of is Matthew Dallas, the lefty. Yes. He was going to be real good. He was hurt to start the season or in fall camp or whatever, and he couldn't throw strikes. I mean, it's not like they didn't give him chances. Every time he got a chance, he'd show glimpses of he could be a really good starter in the SEC, but just never got it going. But I think we've got a few that stayed or are staying so far that are just our freshmen too that could do real well. But he's the only one that kind of surprised me out of the freshmen that are here. I think Curley's going to move to third. He'll have Antigua playing short. And then you got to find a second baseman and figure out a first baseman.
I'll get to you here in a second, Harbin. Here's D1. Here's perfect game rankings, recruiting rankings for this year. Tennessee 1, LSU 2, Texas 3, Miami 4, Georgia Tech 5. Wow.
That's surprising.
Auburn 6, Ole Miss 7, A&M 8, TCU 9, Vandy 10. So let's see, out of the top 10, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the top 10 are SEC teams. The exceptions are TCU and Georgia Tech and Miami. So what do you think, Harbin, about next year? I know we're still kind of celebrating this year, but like Thomas said, Vitello and his staff are probably already recruiting and trying to get guys in here for next year. But where do we go from here?
Listen, where this program is and where it has been the last 4 to 5 years, we've seen it before. We don't rebuild anymore. We reload. So obviously, do I expect back-to-back national championships? No, I think that's a little crazy in my opinion. But I think it's very crazy to not expect this team to be in the mix again next year. You're gonna have young guys step up. You're gonna have guys from the portal that are legit that want to come play for one of, if not the best team in college baseball. I don't like. Well, it was funny because what was that one? What was that one article from? Was it 247 that put out before the season started? It said down year for Tony V and the Vols.
Oh, that was SEC Unfiltered or something.
Yeah, they thought a down year was coming this year. Freezing cold take of 2024 so far. Yeah, I think we've just established ourselves as, I'm going to be conservative and say top 5 program in the country. And I expect to keep that rolling next year. We're going to contend for an SEC title, which when you do that, you contend for a national title. That's just point blank.
It's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally where we are right now. Give a lot of credit to Tony V and all the guys that have played for him over the last 7 years that have helped build this foundation. We're going to keep it rolling in 2025. I mean, that's about as point blank as I can tell you. We're here and we ain't really going anywhere anytime soon.
What I like to hear, Harbin.
Just is what it is.
Winners what it is. Facts are facts. Winners win.
That's what it is.
So before we get out of here, let's does anybody have haters and losers? I've got one, but do y'all have any haters and losers?
I've got one.
Okay, go ahead.
Mine will be Greg McElroy.
Oh, that was a good one. He was on my list. He was on my short list.
Now he apologized, but it was after the fact, and
too bad. Too late.
It's a terrible, but yeah, you can't.
Too late.
The man just won a national championship. All he did was he was mad about the DX chop to his own players. Blake Burke did it to the whole team after a home run in the super regional or the regional. It's probably an inside joke. Who cares what you think? Shut your mouth. I mean,
what a loser. He is a loser.
You're coming after a team that just won the national title. Nobody came after your team and said anything the crap you did. And just because your coach eats the same thing every day for lunch for his, don't mean everybody's not Tony Vitello.
And it was real rich coming from an Alabama player. I mean, how many times did a camera zoom into Nick Saban and he's either dog cussing the air or he's dog cussing a player after they've screwed up?
Slamming a headset or whatever, yeah.
I mean, temper tantrums, pitching fits. Tony Vitello, I was right there in front. I was probably 10 or 15 rows up when we first went down to the lower levels. Vitello jumped up in the crowd right in front of us. Of course, I wasn't there on the front row. I was probably about 10 rows away. And I was like, you just don't see coaches do that. I love that he's got that. I mean, he's a younger guy. He's 45?
That's why the players like playing for him, because they let them, like you said, Christian Moore came back fully dressed. They let them do what they want as long as they're at the ball field or at the bus when they need to be there and they play, they treat them like pro players. So that's why they've played so well and have been able to recruit and do so well the last 4 years, is because they treat them like they're professionals. Because if they play like they should, then they will be professionals, and you don't need to baby them. They're big boys.
Well, they're adults. We call them kids. They're not kids. They're adults. They're 18.
The funniest thing about the Greg McElroy thing is somebody did a deep dive and found a picture of Greg McElroy shooting double birds to a crowd while he was a player.
Saw that.
I just thought it was funny. Obviously, there's a big difference in being 20, 21 as opposed to late 30s or around 40, but it's just rich. It really is. I'll go. Do you want me to go ahead and go with mine?
Yeah, go ahead. Who's your hater and loser?
We're slightly pressed for time. I'm staying in college football and staying in the state of Texas. My hater and loser of the week is Quinn Ewers for his comments he made in the last couple of days. A reporter asked him, I'm paraphrasing, how he feels about playing the SEC schedule, how it's going to be different than last year, whatever. And this man has the balls to say that we are everybody's biggest game.
Huh.
Like,
boy, Texas people love talking about themselves, don't they?
Absolutely. And I kind of, I'm not gonna lie, he is a hater and a loser for that statement, but I semi-respect it because if he truly does feed off of shit like that, you're gonna get booed like hell every road game you go to. So might as well make the statements as egregious as you can if you can legitimately feed off of that. But it's just nowhere near accurate. I don't know Texas's schedule, but I think they play LSU this year, for example. If they truly think that LSU gives more of a shit about playing them than playing Alabama, they've lost their friggin' mind. It's legitimately ridiculous. But hey, to each their own. Them boys are just absolutely not ready for the SEC. I'm not saying talent-wise, they may have a great year. They may not. But just as a whole, the University of Texas is not ready for SEC culture. It's just not.
I saw a meme, Harbin, and it was like a little kid drawing stick fingers or stick people, and there was 14 of them, and it was all the SEC schools had an SEC logo on it. It's like SEC schools having a meaningful conversation with each other, and they're just standing around and like they're holding the chocolate milk or whatever they're drinking. And then the last one was, here's Texas and OU, and it's stick people. Their mouths are wide open. They're screaming. They're scared of us. July 1st is here. Texas and OU is taking over. And it's like, these people are already on my nerves. They're not even officially in the conference until July 1st on Monday. Like, I'm already sick of them.
Having Texas in the conference may make me feel like Texas A&M is less weird than they actually are.
Texas A&M is very weird, by the way.
They are, but
I think I sent
the state of Texas as a whole, like the arrogance, like that whole thing. Like,
I think I sent you all some videos on the Snapchat, maybe, of when we were at Blatt's across the street before the game. They started doing that thing where they sway back and forth and sing "Saw Varsity's Horn." I guess it's the Aggie War Hymn. And you just look around and like all the Tennessee fans are like, this is like when me and you and Patrick went to the game, Thomas. Everybody's just standing around like, what in the world is this?
Their fight song is about Texas. And like their whole song they sing is going against Texas. Like,
I text my cousin who graduated from A&M, and I was like, what is it? This is so weird. They're very nice people, but they are very weird. My hater and loser of the week, as we're butting up against time here, is all the people that sent me text messages during the game or after the game on Saturday night, which there was a lot of them, so many that I can't even I can't even name them all. But they were saying,
Name a few.
leave, huh?
You can name a few. What?
I could name a few. What? I got text, leave now. Does your flight leave in the morning? You are a jinx.
Pedro
Please
told
leave
you to
now.
call UT police.
If you want, yeah, call UT police now. Please leave the stadium. Please leave
What?
Nebraska.
What?
I mean, it just went on and on. I didn't respond. I kept my cool. Said there's another game tomorrow. And I sent a meme back to the softball team that I play with, the Mascot Mafia, who's in the we're going to be at least one of the final 3 left in the tournament. But I sent him the Pete Weber, the bowler meme. I said, "Who do you think you are?" I am. After we won the title. a great when he bowls that strike, doesn't he do like the DX suck it or something? And then he says, "Who do you think you are?" I am. I sent that to him. So haters and losers are the people who told me that I was the problem and that I should leave. I told you all, the jinx was dead. The curse was over. It's been over.
I love me some me. So
I never
Winners
outwardly
win.
sent you anything, but the thought did cross my mind.
I'm over that. I don't think like that anymore. That stuff used to cross my mind. And I was thinking about all the losses I sat through over the years in all these sports while I was eating McDonald's at 1:00 in the morning at the house we were staying in. Some of the best McDonald's I've ever had, by
Maybe
the way.
the jinx is just gone for baseball because you've seen an SEC championship, you've seen multiple regionals,
What?
but that's it. Only in baseball. You can't go to any other sport news.
Well,
by the way, the University of Tennessee athletics is 2-0. Count them, 2-0. In their last 2 athletic events where Nathan Neese and Peyton Manning were both in attendance. Both of those.
What did I say? And why didn't they show me? They showed Morgan Wallen, Peyton, Rick, and Josh.
I'm assuming the last game that Peyton was at that you were at would have been the 2022 Alabama game. I'm assuming.
No,
he was at the Florida. Nathan.
He lost the Georgia game this past year in football because remember Dolly was there.
Oh yeah.
So I was there too. So
that one don't count.
That don't count. That doesn't count. And we'll blame Dolly for that one.
Dolly needs to be a hater and loser for that.
All right, guys, that's it for this week. We're running out of time here. National champions, enjoy it. Everybody listening, enjoy it. Don't think about the bad times. Just think about the national championship. There'll be banners hung, flags flown. So next up on the agenda is summertime to get ready for football. We'll have some periodic episodes over the next month or so. Harbin and I are working on a very, very big time special guest to be on here. We got to work out the details with that person. I gave you a hint last time. I don't have a hint this time, but gave you a hint as to who it may be last time. So we'll figure that out. See when we can get that person on as we go along. But for Harbin, I'm not going to give you all closing thoughts because we're running out of time. But appreciate everybody coming on here. Thomas Raines, national champion. That's what we'll refer to you as from here on out. Harbin, good to see you again. Keep hitting the links. Hey, I had by the way, before we leave, I had my first eagle in 3 years. I texted you all and said 5. It was 3 years yesterday at Wood Lake, number 11.
Good for you.
Stuck a 4-iron from 196 to about 5 feet and made the putt. So just oozing with winning right now. Like Chad Grubb says.
Winners win.
Eagles do win sometimes, but pars win too.
Hey, closing thoughts. Winners win.
Winners win. For Harbin and Thomas Raines, this is Negative Neese. We'll see you guys next time on the Section YY8 podcast.